History remembers the samurai as Japan's fiercest warriors. But hidden in their chronicles is a story so unbelievable, it sounds like legend. In the middle of Japan's bloodiest civil war, the Genpei War, there was a warrior said to fight like 100 men. She rode with generals, led charges, and cut down enemies without mercy. But here's the shock. This feared warrior was a woman. Her name was Tomoe Gozen, warrior, icon, and legend of fire and steel. In the epic tale of the Heike, she is remembered as a master of the bow, a relentless rider, and a swordswoman worth 1,000 warriors. Late 12th century Japan wasn't a land of serene gardens and tranquil temples. It was a nation tearing itself apart. This was the era of the Genpei War, a 5-year bloodbath that pitted Japan's two most powerful clans against each other for control of the country. On one side, you had the Taira clan, the established aristocratic power in the capital city of Kyoto. They were seen by many as refined but also corrupt and out of touch. On the other side were the Minamoto, a clan of tough provincial warriors who believed it was their destiny to restore strength and honor to Japan. This wasn't just a political squabble, it was a civil war that would ultimately define the age of the samurai. Into this crucible of war stepped Minamoto no Yoshinaka. A cousin to the main Minamoto leaders, Yoshinaka was a world apart. Raised in the remote, mountainous Kiso region, he was a wild and charismatic leader nicknamed the Sun General. His ambition was as vast as the mountains he grew up in, and his methods were just as unpredictable. Yoshinaka's father had been killed in a power struggle, and he was hidden away as a child to save him from the same fate. It was there, far from the capital, that the tales say he grew up alongside a young woman whose destiny would become linked with his own, a woman named Tomoe. The exact nature of their relationship is shrouded in mystery. Literary sources describe her as his wife, mistress, or trusted attendant. What the legends agree on is the deep bond they shared. The stories say they trained together in the mountains, honing their skills with the sword and bow. Yoshinaka saw in Tomoe a warrior of unparalleled talent, and as he began his campaign, he didn't just bring along an attendant. The epics say he brought his most fearsome warrior. So, who was this woman who, according to legend, commanded such respect? Our most famous description of Tomoe Gozen comes from The Tale of the Heike, an epic account of the war written decades after the events. It's crucial to remember this is literature, not a strict historical document, but it paints an unforgettable picture. According to the tale, Tomoe was especially beautiful, with white skin, long hair, and charming features. This wasn't meant to soften her image. It was to create a startling contrast. The tale immediately follows this by describing her as a remarkably strong archer, and as a swordswoman, she was a warrior worth 1,000, ready to confront a demon or a god, mounted or on foot. This wasn't just flowery language, it was how the chroniclers chose to remember her. A figure of both sublime beauty and terrifying skill. In an era when women of the warrior class, the Bugeisha, were typically trained in defensive arts to protect their homes, Tomoe was something else entirely. The stories depict her as an Onna-musha, an offensive warrior who rode into battle. While archaeology does suggest women sometimes fought, there is no direct evidence for Tomoe's personal deeds. Her skills, as told in the epic, were legendary. The Heike states that whenever a battle was imminent, Yoshinaka sent her out as his first captain, clad in strong armor and wielding an oversized sword. It claims she performed more deeds of valor than any of his other warriors. In one account, she is said to have single-handedly collected the heads of 7 mounted warriors, a common practice to prove one's valor. This combination of beauty, ferocity, and leadership made her an icon. The name Gozen itself isn't a name but an honorific, roughly meaning lady, showing the respect she commanded. By the spring of 1183, the Genpei War had reached a fever pitch. The Taira clan, aiming to crush the upstart Yoshinaka, amassed a massive army, with some sources claiming up to 100,000 men. Their path led them to the Kurikara Pass, a treacherous gorge where a large army's numbers meant little. The valley below was ominously named Jigoku-dani, Hell Valley. It would soon live up to its name. Yoshinaka's strategy was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Knowing a direct fight was suicide, he used deception. He had his men plant dozens of Minamoto banners on nearby hills, tricking the Taira commander into thinking he faced a much larger army and causing him to halt. This gave Yoshinaka the time he needed. He split his army, sending one group to circle behind the Taira and laying an ambush in the valley below. As night fell, the plan exploded into action. Yoshinaka's men rounded up a herd of oxen, tied flaming torches to their horns, and stampeded them straight into the Taira camp. The night erupted into chaos as sleeping warriors were woken by what looked like a demonic, fiery charge. It's here in the epic tales that Tomoe Gozen takes center stage. A later chronicle, the Genpei Josuiki, claims she commanded a force of 1,000 warriors in this battle, though this number is considered legendary. The legends say she smashed into the disorganized Taira lines, her war cry spurring her comrades on. The terrified Taira soldiers, already panicked by the oxen, believed they were surrounded. They shattered, fleeing down the only path left, straight into the dark gorge and Yoshinaka's waiting ambush. It was a complete massacre. The Battle of Kurikara was a devastating blow from which the Taira never fully recovered, and it opened the road to the capital. While her command is part of epic storytelling and not verified in historical records, the stories place Tomoe right at the heart of this brilliant, tide-turning victory. The victory at Kurikara should have been Yoshinaka's finest hour. He marched into Kyoto and was even named shogun. But the Sun General's untamed nature was his undoing. His troops looted the city, and his arrogance alienated the court. Worse, his ambition put him in conflict with his powerful cousin, Minamoto no Yoritomo, the true head of the clan. In early 1184, Yoritomo sent an army to destroy his own cousin. Yoshinaka fled the capital, his army reduced to a handful of loyal retainers. His final stand came at the Battle of Awazu. It was a hopeless fight, a battle for an honorable death. Among the few who remained was Tomoe Gozen. It's here that the tale of the Heike gives us one of history's most memorable scenes. As his forces were nearly wiped out, Yoshinaka reportedly turned to Tomoe and told her to flee, saying it would be shameful for him to die with a woman at his side. Tomoe refused to leave, but he insisted. Finally, she agreed, but not before one last act of defiance. The tale says she declared, "If only I could find a worthy foe, I would fight a last battle for his lordship to watch." Just then, a group of 30 riders appeared, led by a famously strong warrior named Onda no Hachiro Moroshige, sometimes called Honda no Morishige, or Uchida Yayoshi in other versions. Tomoe charged directly at him, dragged him from his horse, pinned him against her saddle, and twisted off his head. Having shown her lord one final act of valor, she threw the head aside, shed her armor, and rode away into the eastern provinces, just as Yoshinaka had commanded. Shortly after, he was killed. This dramatic episode is a highlight of the epic literature, but again is not corroborated in any historical record. After riding away from the carnage at Awazu, Tomoe Gozen effectively disappears from any verifiable record and gallops straight into legend. Her ultimate fate is one of Japanese history's great mysteries. Over the centuries, several stories have emerged. One popular version from the Genpei War claims she was later captured by one of Yoritomo's retainers, Wada Yoshimori, and forced to become his wife. In this telling, she bore him a famously strong son and eventually became a Buddhist nun, dying at the age of 91. Another, more tragic legend says that overwhelmed with grief, she committed suicide to follow her master into the afterlife, with some versions having her walk into the sea holding his recovered head. And then there's the simplest possibility. She just vanished. She may have discarded her armor and lived out her days in anonymity, her extraordinary past a secret she carried to her grave. The fact that at least 5 different sites in Japan claim to have her tomb only deepens the mystery, proving that while her fate is uncertain, her memory is very much alive. This brings us to the biggest question of all. Was Tomoe Gozen real? It's a debate that has fascinated historians for centuries. The main problem is that for all her fame, Tomoe is completely absent from contemporary government records and chronicles of the Genpei War. Her entire story comes almost exclusively from literary epics like The Tale of the Heike, which were written decades later and were designed as much for entertainment as for historical accuracy. This lack of primary sources has led many scholars to suggest she might be a literary invention, an archetype created to add drama to Yoshinaka's tragic end. Perhaps she was an amalgamation of the deeds of several real female warriors whose individual stories have been lost to time. However, many historians believe she was likely a real person, around whom a powerful legend was built. The existence of female warriors, or Onna-musha, is historically documented, and it's plausible that a woman of exceptional skill could have risen to prominence during the chaos of the Genpei War. Whether she was a literal historical figure or a legend born from truth, her impact is undeniable. She became the archetypal female samurai, a symbol of martial skill, loyalty, and defiance. Tomoe Gozen's story has echoed through the centuries, a powerful testament to a woman who shattered every convention of her time. In legend, she was a commander, a warrior, and an icon. The stories of her leadership at Kurikara and her final defiant act at Awazu cemented her place as a paragon of samurai valor. She remains a ghost in the official records, yet her presence in Japan's cultural memory is as solid as a fortress. This forces us to ask, what truly defines a legacy? Is it the cold, hard facts found in official chronicles, or the enduring power of a story that continues to inspire people hundreds of years later? What do you think happened to Tomoe Gozen after she rode away from Awazu? Let us know your theory in the comments below.